go ahead and write this down if you're working from home. Pause it, and then we'll move on. All right. So angle similarity says that if there are two angles that are congruent, then we can conclude that those two triangles are similar. Now, to be similar, they have to have congruent angles. They can be different sizes, though. So see, this triangle is smaller than this triangle, but if they have all the same angles, then they are considered similar triangles, okay? Now, right now, just looking at it, you don't know for sure that those are similar triangles. But if we can show that at least two of the angles are congruent, then we're good. We already know that these are congruent. And we have the Angle Sum Theorem that says that the sum of all the angles of a triangle is equal to 180 degrees. So that means that this angle right here has to be 50, because this has to add up to 120. Well, now you can see here that this angle is congruent to this angle, and this angle is congruent to this angle. And we already know that this is going to have to be 32 because, or 30 as well as this angle, just because they both add up to 180. So if this is 150, then that has to be 30. Just like this is 150, so that has to be 30. Okay? So as long as you can just show that two angles are congruent, you're good. Mission accomplished. They are similar, okay? Now let's look at a different problem. Do we have enough information to tell if those two triangles are similar or not? Kareem, what two pieces of information do you have?
So two of the angles are from triangles, or two of the angles are right angles.
Yep. So these two are congruent to each other. Good.
And then where the triangles connect, those are also congruent.
And how do you know? Do you remember what those angles are called?
No.
Neighbor, help them out.
They are vertical.
Vertical angles. Yeah. So you knew it. You just didn't know the name. So yeah, I would agree, Kareem. I would say that those two triangles have to be similar because this angle and this angle are congruent and these two angles are congruent. And if these angles and these angles are congruent, then we can assume that that third set will also be congruent because they both have to be equal to 180. So yeah. Now let's talk about the justifying piece. When you are doing these kinds of angles, I like you to justify your reasoning. Basically telling me what angle relationship is happening there to show that two angles are congruent and that those two are similar. So I use a simple statement and reason chart. This is the very beginning type of fundamentals for writing mathematical proofs. Okay, you're gonna get into this later on. It's gonna be great. Let me go ahead and I'm gonna name my triangles here just so that I have some points. We'll call this X, Y, Z, and we'll do WV down here. Okay. Well, so let's start with the first thing that Kareem said. He said that this angle Z and this angle W are both right angles. so they are going to be congruent. So we can say angle Z is congruent to angle W because they're both right angles. So whatever your reasoning for saying that those two angles are congruent is what your reason is here in the chart, okay? Now the next thing we did is we decided that these two angles are congruent. Now you can't just call this angle Y and angle Y because there's actually 4 angle Y's. There's this angle, this angle, this angle, and this angle. So we actually need to use those other points to help us out. So I'm going to say angle XYZ is congruent to angle VYW. Okay, making sure that the Y is in the middle because that's the actual vertex of the angle. And then the X and the Z here just show us the sides of the angle. The same with the V and the W. They're just showing you the sides there. Now I know that those two angles are congruent because they are vertical angles. So when I'm asking you to justify, that's all I care about. You're just telling me what kind of angles show that. Now, angle similarity theorem says that once you show that two angles are congruent, then those two triangles are similar. So I'm going to write what's called a similarity statement for these. I'm going to say that now that I have enough information, I can say that triangle XYZ is similar to triangle VYW. I can make this statement because of the angle similarity theorem. And I can just abbreviate it that, angle similarity. All right? Make sense? I hope. Okay. I'm going to have you guys try one. Actually, I'll have you guys try 2 of them. Okay, for this problem, we're assuming that these 2 lines are parallel to each other. And I'm going to give these names, A, B, C, D, E. Okay, so go ahead and do a statement and reason chart for this to show that those are, in fact, similar triangles. questions, let me know. Happy to answer them. Okay, it looks like most of you finished. And on this first one, you can actually easily show that all the angles are congruent. Because obviously angle C is congruent to angle C, because it's the same angle. And a lot of you were saying, well, angle B and angle A are congruent. Those are corresponding angles. Some of you didn't remember the name, but you knew that these were congruent. And that's why it's important that you make sure you have your notes with you on Wednesday so you can look it up and say what kind of angles those are. Same thing with D and E, okay? So you can actually show all three angles are congruent, but you only need two. So I'm gonna go ahead and do two. I'm gonna say that angle C is congruent to angle C because they're the same angle. And then I'll say that angle CBD is congruent to angle CAE. It's important that you use those extra points because if you just say angle B, I don't know whether you're talking about this angle or that angle because there's two possibilities there. And actually for angle A, you could just say angle A because there's only one. But I did the whole thing. And we can call this corresponding. That's an E. Corresponding angles. And you could show that these two are also congruent, but you don't have to. So I'm going to go ahead and do what I call the similarity statement here. So we can say triangle BCD is similar to triangle ACE because of angle similarity theorem. Okay. Next one. Obviously, angle A and angle D are going to be congruent because they have the same measure. So we can do angle A is congruent to angle D because they have the same measure. Okay. And then we could easily also say that angle C, or ACB, and DCE are congruent because they're vertical. So angle ACB is congruent to angle DCE because they are vertical angles. Now we can write our similarity statement for those triangles. We can say that triangle ABC is similar to triangle DEC because of the angle similarity theorem. Okay. Any questions about that? Tomorrow, we're going to be reviewing all the different types of angle problems and also working on the justifications too so that you're ready for your quiz. I'll have a study guide for you tomorrow and all that jazz. I'll go ahead and take the last 5 minutes to work on that review slide deck that's in Otis that is due on Thursday. So I'll try to give you class time each day to work on it, and then you can work on it at home too for homework. Make sure you don't save it for the last minute because then you're going to run out of time. After school, if you need help on graphing lines, slope, writing equations of lines, all that stuff this afternoon.